Welcome to the Holy Bible Hub, your online sanctuary for spiritual growth and inspiration. Today we talk about the story of David, a shepherd, a warrior, and a king. David's story is one of the most profound and inspiring narratives in the Bible. From humble beginnings as a shepherd boy to becoming Israel's greatest king, his journey is filled with trials, triumphs, and a deep relationship with God. His life is chronicled primarily in the books of 1 Samuel and 1 Kings, showcasing his faith, courage, and failures. David was the youngest son of Jesse, a Bethlehemite from the tribe of Judah. At the time, Israel was ruled by King Saul, who had been chosen by God, but later rejected due to his disobedience. God instructed the prophet Samuel to anoint a new king from Jesse's sons. Samuel visited Jesse's household, and one by one Jesse's older sons stood before him. Each time God told Samuel, "Do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things people look at." After all the older sons had passed, Samuel asked if Jesse had any other sons. Jesse responded, "There remains yet the youngest, but he is tending the sheep." When David was brought in, God confirmed to Samuel that he was the chosen one. Samuel anointed David in the presence of his family, and from that day forward, the Spirit of the Lord was upon him. Sometime later, Israel found itself at war with the Philistines. The Philistine army had a giant warrior named Goliath who taunted Israel's soldiers daily, challenging them to single combat. The Israelites, including King Saul, were terrified. David, still a young shepherd, was sent by his father to deliver food to his brothers who were serving in Saul's army. When he arrived at the battlefield and heard Goliath's defiance, he was filled with righteous indignation. He asked, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" David volunteered to fight Goliath, despite his youth. King Saul doubted him, but David recounted his experiences of killing a lion and a bear while protecting his sheep, testifying that God had delivered him then and would do so again. Saul finally agreed and offered David his armor, but David refused, choosing instead to rely on God. Armed with only a sling and 5 smooth stones, David approached Goliath. The giant laughed and mocked him, but David declared, "You come against me with sword and spear, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty." With a single stone, David struck Goliath in the forehead, and the giant fell. David then used Goliath's own sword to behead him, leading Israel to victory. Following his triumph, David was brought into King Saul's court. He became a skilled harpist, soothing Saul's troubled spirit, and was also made a commander in Saul's army. David quickly gained popularity, and the people sang, "Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands." This praise sparked jealousy in Saul, who saw David as a threat. Saul's jealousy turned to hatred, and he sought to kill David. He threw a spear at him, plotted against him, and even offered his daughter Michal in marriage as a trap. But God was with David, and he escaped each attempt on his life. During this time, David developed a deep friendship with Saul's son Jonathan. They made a covenant of loyalty, and Jonathan, recognizing God's hand on David, protected him from his father's wrath. At great personal cost, Jonathan warned David to flee, sealing their bond with a heartfelt farewell. For years, David lived as a fugitive, moving from place to place as Saul pursued him relentlessly. Despite having opportunities to kill Saul, David refused, believing it was not his place to harm the Lord's anointed. In one instance, while hiding in a cave, Saul unknowingly entered. David's men urged him to strike Saul down, but instead, David stealthily cut off a corner of Saul's robe, later revealing it as proof that he bore no ill will. Saul, moved to tears, acknowledged David's righteousness, but continued his pursuit. Eventually, Saul and his son Jonathan fell in battle against the Philistines. Upon hearing the news, David mourned deeply, composing a lament for Saul and Jonathan, honoring them despite their conflicts. After Saul's death, David was anointed king of Judah, but Saul's remaining supporters set up his son Ishbosheth as a rival king. A civil war ensued, but David's forces grew stronger. Eventually, Ishbosheth was assassinated, and the tribes of Israel united under David's rule. He was anointed king over all Israel and established Jerusalem as his capital. As king, David led Israel to numerous victories, expanding the kingdom and securing its borders. One of his most significant acts was bringing the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. In joyous celebration, he danced before the Lord, showing his deep devotion. Despite his greatness, David was not without sin. One of his gravest failures was his affair with Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah, one of his loyal soldiers. When Bathsheba became pregnant, David tried to cover up his sin by recalling Uriah from battle, hoping he would spend time with his wife. But Uriah refused to go home while his comrades were at war. In desperation, David orchestrated Uriah's death by placing him in the heat of battle. God sent the prophet Nathan to confront David. Nathan told a parable of a rich man who stole a poor man's only lamb. When David condemned the man in the story, Nathan declared, "You are that man." David was struck with remorse and repented deeply. Though God forgave him, he faced severe consequences, including the death of his child with Bathsheba and turmoil within his family. David's later years were marked by personal and political struggles. His son Absalom rebelled against him, leading a revolt that forced David to flee Jerusalem. Though David's forces ultimately triumphed, Absalom was killed, plunging David into grief. Despite his hardships, David remained faithful to God. Before his death, he prepared Solomon, his son with Bathsheba, to take the throne, charging him to follow God's commandments. David ruled for 40 years and was known as a man after God's own heart. His Psalms remain a testament to his faith, expressing deep sorrow, joy, and devotion to God. His lineage led to Jesus Christ, fulfilling God's covenant that David's throne would endure forever. David's story is one of faith, courage, failure, and redemption. His life serves as a powerful reminder that God can use imperfect people for his divine purpose, offering grace and restoration to those who seek him. From a shepherd to a king, David's story is a powerful testament to faith, courage, and God's divine purpose. No matter the giants we face, with faith, we can overcome. Thank you for watching the Holy Bible Hub. If this message blessed you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring biblical stories. Let's continue growing in God's Word together. Drop a comment below. What lesson from David's life spoke to you the most? Until next time, stay blessed and keep walking in faith.